Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have a pretty big Illuvium dev blog that Aaron wrote. It does say that here it's a 9-minute read. If you are a fast reader and a good reader, I'd suggest just clicking on the link in the description and going ahead and reading it, because I suck at reading. So I'm going to do my best to paraphrase this, explain to you what's going on in all these points, and hopefully for those that don't like reading, like myself, I can get you guys through it. Okay, so for the intro, basically expresses the excitement that they finally got staking V2 out, and states how complicated the actual process is. Then it goes through on talking about how they're accelerating through things because people are less spread thin, so they can start targeting things down. Goes into how they bit off more than they could chew, but the thought process behind the fact that they can do anything is what is getting them through it. The lesson is that we can put that bulldozer attitude to better use if we narrow the focus, is the idea. And then he touches on how they plan to spend more time polishing up the open beta to ensure everything's like perfect before they even focus on a future game or anything like that. Next, we get into Alluvium Arena. So they've renamed Ranked Arena into the Ascendant Arena. I think this is a really good name. The reason for this is that, you know, Leviathan and Survival will both have ranked modes, so it seemed weird having one called Ranked Arena. Ascendant Arena is a really cool sound. The Ascendant name for it really makes sense because you're sort of ascending your Alluvials past what they actually are when you go into combat with it. So I think it's quite suitable. Plus, it sounds sick, which is always the main thing. Then we get into the dot points. The first one, the launch of Private Beta 1 is imminent. They're just waiting on some security stuff and, you know, behind the scenes sort of stuff. And then it should be good. Like he says, from the combat that we've been seeing, Grant, Kieran, and Dick Kings do in the Discord, it's looking ready to go. They've nearly completed all of the Private Beta 2 Alluvials, which includes the links and the tier zeros, which is really promising. So that's getting sorted. When we get into the open world, they'll talk about, you know, they're not quite ready for PB2 because of the open world, but at least all the Alluvials are getting underway. Then he talks about re-architecting the main systems. So he says bugs will be less likely to be created and easier to spot. So that's sort of a back-end type thing that's going to make things, you know, a bit easier on them, I believe, with ironing out kinks, and also making combat units easier to create, which is always a good thing. The QA team raised 106 bugs and resolved 141. So that is efficiency at its greatest. I don't think you can get much better efficiency than clearing more bugs than you find. Obviously, some of the bugs were old bugs, I'd assume, is why the math ends up the way it is there. Augment bonding and the new hyper mechanic will happen this month, but he says hyper won't be complete. And I think that's the thing for a lot of these things. I know we watched a lot of the gameplay of Kieran and Grant and Dick Kings and all that. And, you know, people get really deep into it. To me, it's like everything is going to be balanced. Like there's no, like, I feel like we're going to be far away from what we are now by the time we actually launch. So keep in mind that as we do start to see stuff and all that, don't take notes down for what it's going to be at launch, because I definitely think everything will be continually balanced and adjusted. The cinematic renderer is now works for survival mode, but it won't be available for beta. They've moved all the data server side. I think that was like their play to make it easier for patching and stuff like that, more back-end stuff that I'm not a genius on, but we will wait and see. We finalized the groom and hair card system. They'll give you a default hair type optics, but then you can like crank it up to what they call Grant mode, where you get that really cool, like that really realistic look. However, you know, like they say, it'll probably melt your PC unless you got 15 graphics cards. So the final one, as we are nearly complete with the art for... See, this is what happens when I stop paraphrasing and I start trying to read it. I fuck up. We'll start to polish Alluvials that need it. Basically, they're working through them, just adding extra touches to make it more immersive and stuff like that on the Alluvials. The first few lines are done, and then they just keep working on the other ones, just trying to polish it up, indicating things of like health, stats, and, you know, when they're hurt and stuff like that. So that is that. Next up, we have Alluvium Overworld. So for this one, he says some setbacks were due to basically team members having lives for lack of a better statement. So these workers on the Illuvium project, I can't believe they think they can have lives and do anything else besides create the game. But last month he says like their keyword that they were aiming for was a functional version of the Overworld. This month they're looking for a polished version, which is a pretty good way to look at it. Good summary, easy for nuffies like me to understand. Anyway, the Crimson Waste is pretty much ready. We've been seeing a lot of leaks of the Crimson Waste, and it is looking really, really solid. Made some updates to existing plants, but that weren't up to their standards. Cool beans. We've seen some leaks of the plants, like the physics of interaction when you walk into the plants. It looks clean, better than like most games that I've seen. I can't think of one that has better interactions, and that was like an early test of it. So definitely liking what I'm seeing from the overworld with the interaction of plants and stuff like that. The user interface for the new heads-up display is in progress, including new in-game notification system. Harvesting and mining are also nearly done, which is nice. Forging is functional. There's still UI stuff to go on with that to make it polished, but you can still get a recipe and turn it into the final product, which requires a complete inventory system, which is also functional, which is really nice. They've doubled their UI programming team this month, so, you know, doubling the team, hopefully double the speed. You normally have some losses in that, so, you know, hopefully it goes faster. The teleport beacons are now functional, which is another cool thing that I really like. And then encounter mode is now functional. So with this one, he says the encounter mode is like that sort of, you know, the open world. You go into the encounter, you battle the Alluvials, you defeat them, you capture them, they're in your inventory, and then you go on. He said that process works, but what he says here is, I'm just going to read this. I want to stress that borrowing the encounter mode from Alluvium Arena is just the first phase of a much larger plan to allow you to capture Alluvials in the world. But that upgrade requires a colossal update, and as such, we will leverage the auto battler to enable capture. But don't worry, we will begin working on a complete overhaul of overworld fight mechanics as soon as possible. I love this. I can't wait to see what they come up with. Aaron and the team always have some amazing ideas that are really cool, so I have no doubt that it will be the same for this one. Quick update from Illuvium Zero. A slightly larger team has increased the throughput significantly, and the internal alpha looks good. They have had that going. We've known about that, so definitely keen to sort of see some gameplay from that. Maybe they can even get it out in a beta format so people can test it. I think getting it out in a beta format would be really cool for marketing as well. But we'll wait and see what happens there. VFX completed except for some optimizations. We are adding some new plant assets to make it feel alive. The plant assets thing there, that's like the epitome of what Illuvium is. It's like adding those little things just for the experience. So, you know, that one, I just like seeing stuff like that because they always care about the experience. Full UI update in progress, tutorial system and daily and weekly goals system, landmark system, land tier boosts. The WebGL version of the game looks great. A new sound engineer, that got me excited because the sound engineers they've got are fantastic. All the sounds in the trailers, the game, everything is cool. So I'm definitely keen to hear what this looks like, hear what this sounds like, because their audio is always top notch. Future scoping has begun, and we'll need the community input to this. After you all birthed. Sorry, I suck at reading. Your birth Illuvium Zero. How should we expand it? I have some ideas, as do the rest of the team. There's a lot we can do with the storyline. So that is Illuvium Zero. Moving on to the launch cinematic, no updates here. Account app, no new updates here. It is complete as far as the private betas are concerned. We will revisit before the launch of the open beta. Cool beans. Moving on to the game launcher. So this was meant to be like that like I always think of the Blizzard launcher, where you open up Blizzard launcher and then it's got, you know, your World of Warcraft, your StarCraft, like all your games. You can go into it, you download everything through there. That's essentially how I view this thing as being. So that's well underway. Very close to having the download portal ready, so people don't have to get betas manually. So that would be really nice if we can just get this launcher, and then those who are playing the beta can just download it straight from the launcher instead of having to go roundabout ways to get the game client, which is nice. We have a clear picture of this app's functionality and final look. The desktop app version will begin shortly. Made up my own word there. Soon. Now for staking V2, the deployment was very smooth. It was pretty cruisy. And then he said there was one area that needed to do some work, but it's already done. So that was just polishing up little things, I guess. I don't know too much about the details, but the thing's looking solid. Token holders that did not withdraw received accumulated rewards greater than if we kept staking running. I believe that's just due to the fact that because they didn't keep it running, there wasn't more people putting liquidity into it, meaning that the rewards weren't spread thinner. So I think that's the general math on how that works. Gas fees are lower and claiming rewards is much simpler. We believe almost all UI's bugs are gone. That's cool. And he wants to start work on V3 after a break to give everyone a bit of a rest on it. And he just talks about it being a lot more challenging getting it onto layer 2. And may require some decisions that not everyone is happy about, but the positives massively outweigh the negatives. So we'll wait and see that. That'll obviously go through IIPs and stuff like that, community can discuss. So that isn't too bad. Onto the land sale and Illuvidex. They're very close apart from testing some infrastructure. We are there. Audits have begun. So I'm optimistic that we'll have an announcement on the date for you soon. So hopefully we do get that date for land sale. Kieran was aiming to have the land sale before the end of the month. So fingers crossed we can get that done. Now, the Illuvidex is going to swallow the Alluviary. I am actually incredibly happy about this. So the Illuvidex was the decentralized exchange, which was like, where the marketplace as such. And the Alluviary was going to be like the Pokedex. And it always confused me that the Illuvidex was the exchange, which makes sense because it's a decentralized exchange. But the Alluviary was the Pokedex. And I don't know why Pokemon called it a Pokedex, but they did. So I'm glad that everything is going to be under the Illuvidex, because now your Pokedex is in the Illuvidex and the decentralized exchange is in the Dex. It just all makes sense. So I'm super happy with that, because that is something that just always just gave me that little bit of irritation. But they're going to be the one thing now, which I also think is really good. Like if you've got your market there and you can like tab in from your market when you're looking at Alluvial and then get deep into like all the details of them, I think that's absolutely fantastic. So I think that's a good change that they're going to be, merged into one. There's infrastructure changes in progress to secure against malicious actors. So basically there's just a bunch of back-end security type stuff and end-to-end testing with IMX. Basically what this is saying is I feel like the vibe I'm getting is like land sales ready to go, but like they're just doing massive due diligence to make sure there's no security threat or they don't fuck anything up, because that would be the worst thing that could happen. And if it takes a little bit longer to get things 100% buttoned down and have no issues, I think that's definitely worth it in my opinion. Moving on past that, we have the new website deployed simultaneously as staking V2. We think it looks pretty sharp. We hope you like it. There are still many things we want to add, but it's a great start. Once we complete the supporting apps, it will feel more complete. When you go to the website and there's all those tabs and it looks cool and you want to click on it, like I want to click on that beta button, but there's no beta to play yet. That thing is going to be nice. Moving on to Illuvitars, about the same state as land sale. So I think Illuvitars are pretty much ready to go for the first set. And he talks about how after they do land sale, like all that sort of fine tuning stuff will be done. So Illuvitars should run a lot smoother. Genesis set phase 2, they've begun work on, which is nice. Audits for the specific Illuvitars components will get underway soon. We are doing another pass of refining the user experience. We want this to be fun and straightforward. Keep in mind that Illuvitars is far more complex than your run-of-the-mill PFP project. That's that dashboard where you can customize your additions to your Illuvitars and all that sort of stuff. So definitely keen to see where that goes. DAO dashboard still on hold, but we'll start work on it this month with staking, now that staking V2 is out. Investment app, work to begin this month. The most important thing is that we managed to get the token unlock pushed back by 3 months, clearly showing that we care about the project's long-term health. Moving on to the story, not much has changed with the story. It's getting more fleshed out, but it's reasonably mature already. The focus was mainly on writing and directing the cinematic opening and associated launch trailer. We are using this time to flesh out the story Bible and various assets that are not story but are still part of the lore, while Overworld won't have a linear story like in single player games, for a good reason. We would like to tell stories like this in future games, which require a solid backbone to the story of the universe. When he talks about that, I'm thinking like just assets in the game that they actually make sense with where the storyline is and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think they've been pretty set on story for a fairly long time, and definitely keen to see the cinematic opening. I love cinematics. Like, I know people are always like, in crypto land, everyone like hates cinematics. And I'm like, dudes, that's where my absolute hype comes from. Give me as many cinematics as I can. Like, I don't care if anyone can make those things overnight, because no one fucking can. But I love cinematics. They get me hyped. So that's all I have to say on the topic. Governance, new council, lots of IIPs, lots more to come. April will be crazy. Fantastic. Infrastructure, Illuvium Cloud continues to expand, delivering on the download CDN with testing underway. We improved our CI/CD. Listen, I'm not going to pretend I don't know what the fuck this is talking about. I'm not genius on the back end stuff with this. So, you know, infrastructure is underway. You guys can see it on screen. It's been long enough. You can read it. It's a lot of lingo I don't really get, so not going to try and lie to you and sound like a genius, because I definitely am not. Moving on to marketing. Alluvium Insider has proven popular and allows deep connections with community. I have definitely loved Alluvium Insider. I'm not sure about you guys, but I think Andrew's doing a fantastic job on that. I feel like having, you know, founders on every week to have a chat, ask the when questions, it's all good. But honestly, like, Alluvium Insider, massive credit to Andrew. It's a great initiative and it's going really well in my opinion. We launched our first mini campaign, Staking V2, with 2 more on the way for Land Sale and Illuvitars. We have begun to assemble a larger team, hiring 3 more core contributors. The goal is to be agile and adjust to the rapidly changing market. We have 1.3 plus million followers and counting across all marketing channels, which is good leverage to have. From all my chats with Andrew, like, I feel like the marketing team's on top of it. Me personally, I'm very confident in what Andrew can deliver along with the team. So, you know, marketing's one I feel like we're in pretty good hands for. Moving on to production, basically he talks about how they've been gradually, he's mentioned this in the last few updates, you know, they're changing the structure, say, of the team, you know, having product managers. He says they're now product owners and project managers, being that they don't like people having just like one like glorified role and then doing nothing. They want them to be actually doing stuff. So maximizing efficiency out of the entire crew that is working on the game is what they're doing. Basically, then he goes on and talks about the outsourced studios, how they're getting used to what Alluvium wants and their workflow, and they're getting more tuned to it. And they want them obviously to keep delivering work that's in line with what their quality standards are. All right, so this one I'm just going to try and read it out, because the summary is always a good read out type one, except when you suck reading. Anyway, everyone on the project is excited about the future. Look no further than the willingness of both investors and contributors to extend the unlock. Since then, we've seen a lot of growth because everyone understands that we are legit. And we get it. There are many scams in the space, but watching live gameplay footage, select people outside of the team getting their hands on the game, and constant progress updates will allay those fears. Yep, I suck at reading. On a more serious note, I want to thank all the contributors who continue to work tirelessly on the project. The community needs to understand that these people go hard. We get it. It's funny to say when. Keep in mind that many have gone a year straight without a break, including weekends. As much as I am thankful for those that understand the delays, I equally want to implore others to realize that core contributors do read the chat, and negativity can affect them the same as anyone else. Not as much as the lack of sleep and rest, but mental health is important too. I wanted to highlight that as well. I do the when jokes as well, but like when jokes as jokes is cool, but when people start like getting abusive in chats and stuff like that, I definitely agree with that point. I know the internet's a funny place, and it's funny that you see a lot of people on the internet, they get really angry and like pushy, and then if you say one thing back to them, they get instantly cut and upset. And it's like, you've got to understand that if you're getting upset as soon as someone has a go back at you, you understand that you're probably upsetting people when you're doing your thing. Now, me personally, I am 100% used to copying shit, death threats, all that shit, and it really doesn't bother me anymore. But for most people, it can definitely be really hurtful, especially like if you're trying, like he says, if you're building and building and building, and then people are attacking you all the time, and you're sitting there in the dark and you can't really defend yourself. It's not the greatest feeling. So please, keep the when jokes as light-hearted fun. I'm all about that because it's just it's a bit of fun, but don't get the abusive and the real anger in there. It is gonna come. Fingers crossed. Maybe when. Just kidding. But it is gonna come. So you know, cut them some slack. Like he says, mental health's important too. I challenge anyone to find a PlayFi project. PlayFi. I feel like we keep changing this. It was play to earn, play and earn, PlayFi. I don't think I've heard PlayFi. It sounds really corny. Let's keep it as play and earn because, you know, it's not play to earn because then we destroy economies. So it's play. Okay. I challenge anyone to find a PlayFi project that has shown as much progress as Illuvium. We've just eclipsed 500,000 work hours completed and are still just as excited to break the 1,000,000 hour mark. Let's make sure we do it together. See you in the arena. That is the end of it. Like I said, I don't know how long this recording has gone on. It was definitely longer than the 9 minutes that it requires to read, but if you hung around, thanks guys. Apologies about the quality of my reading skills, but you know, we got there. It's a big update. There's a lot going on this month. I'm really excited for. Hopefully, like I said, we get closed beta in the next few days, and then hopefully that expands out really quickly. Then hopefully, obviously, land sale by the end of the month if we can. If not, at least we get a date this month set so we know exactly when land sale is coming. Flow onto Illuvitars, and then, like I said, hopefully this closed beta can open up to as many people as soon as possible so that we can start, you know, just getting the hype levels right up there. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.